I've got even a week positive, 2 week positives, and they're still not wanting to do anything.
So what was her reasoning on that?
She just feels that it's so borderline, and I can't really remember. That's what she said. You didn't have a rash.
But we know that's not true. It only shows up in 60% or something like that.
That's what I said to her.
But am I not right in saying that, like, you'll need to check this stuff out, as you said, but with somebody that knows. But if I was tested tomorrow, I've just come back negative. It wouldn't come back at 102.
No,
it's not like whether you're just over a borderline or not. There's got to be a reason for that being inflated.
Absolutely.
You don't have an inflated reaction unless there's something going on.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah, you're right. I need to look into it and I'm going to speak to someone who knows a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different things, I don't really understand it.
What a voice, what a voice, what a voice I hear. It's like the voice of my Wallet dear. But if I had wings like that swallow high, I will clasp in the arms of my belly boy.
And I don't understand how I have this recent tick bite in August. I have a symptom flare, and then I have a positive blood test, and they still don't just give me those just in case. Do you know what I mean?
That's what we're going to. That's one of the questions that we're going to calmly ask.
It's just very, very strange.
And and just point out the facts and stick to them.
That's what I've been trying to do.
If you can, what you can do is make an appointment for next Friday.
I'll do that. Can you write that down, please, Mary?
I'm at the brewery on Thursday, so I won't finish early, but I'll just come through
No, that's
when I
fine.
finish.
Makes sense.
And I'll just come through and stay the night with you.
Yep.
And we'll, calmly just approach it and see how we go on.
That sounds brilliant. It's just getting slightly overwhelming, I think.
I understand it is true.
And it's been eating up my energy, and my pain's been getting worse, and my migraines are
That's
getting
why I'm
worse.
trying to help and trying to do things.
And I'd like to say it's because I've been doing more, but it's not. It's just that stress. Anyway, okay. Oh, thank you for all that, Mum. Okay, right. Speak to you soon. Thank you, Mum. Have a good evening. Night, night. Let's bye. Bye. Oh well. So that was my mum calling about going through things that, like, because we'd had another GP that was keen to help, and he was willing to speak to my GP about it. Now, he's a specialist, as much as you can get a specialist in Lyme as a GP in the NHS. He knows some of the treatments that work, and he deals with people with chronic or persistent Lyme. Yeah. My GP was not keen to approach him, even though I gave absolute consent. She was really not very happy and started spewing guidelines and things like that she couldn't really do that. So it was then we had to go back to this other GP who was trying to help and said, you know, my GP's not wanting to contact you, would you contact her? She's happy to take your call. But he now feels it's getting too, he feels it's getting a bit too uncomfortable now. So like it would be kind of not in my best interests, he doesn't feel. What he will do is he will give me a list of private GPs that are private ID consultants that he feels might be quite good. But it's just another blow, because the other day, you know, Mum had done all this work and managed to get someone on my side, but it's kind of fallen through again. The alternative was to maybe see someone from like up in Inverness, a specialist, because they're in hotspots, they're around Lyme all the time, and they seem to be more forward thinking in their approach to treatment. But if I'm to get a second opinion, you know, from when we went to see the infectious diseases, it has to be in the same area. Now, take out my blood test, history of tick bite, increased symptoms. My GP would have given me antibiotics there and then. Seeing the blood test should have confirmed that, but because the infectious diseases didn't want to treat me. She said the reason that she wasn't going to give me antibiotics is because they were looking into persistent Lyme. They weren't looking into acute infection. But just because you're looking for something and you find something else doesn't mean to say you don't treat the thing you've just found. Does that not make... Like, that's why I'm finding it very difficult just now to wrap my head around it all. Anyway, so we can't be seen by a different area of infectious diseases, so the only option is to go private and get a private consultant, which costs money. And you should not have to do that. We should not have to do it. Should we?
Yeah, it's...
I know that Lyme Disease UK will help with a lot of it. They're the best charity to be speaking to about this. But anyway, we just shouldn't have to do it.
So it's really hard, but it's amazing work, isn't it? Are you going to go and Heidi? I'm really going to Heidi after.
There's an amazing thing that I'll show you, but it's like a girl looking into a mirror. I don't know if you've seen it before, and she's like all done up, you know. It's just a drawing actually, and she's looking into the mirror at herself, and it's like her normal self looking quite nice, her mirror self, which is what she can see, what she can feel, and she's like all decrepit and like falling to pieces and kind of rotting, and that's kind of how you feel, like, not obviously in your brain, but just like how your body feels when you're feeling that pain. Like, it feels like your joints and your bones are on fire and stabbing pains, and it's like you kind of feel like you're falling apart. But it's like you cannot tell from just looking at someone how they're feeling inside, and it doesn't always present, you know, it's not like a big label on my forehead. Bella, you've been helping, haven't you? You've been helping. Let's do some training. Go get my flip-flop. Bring it here. Come on. Good girl. That's it. Thank you, darling. That's her favourite. And then she looks for biscuit, but you don't always get them, do you? What about what else can we get? Go and get your squirrel. Go get your squirrel. Yes. The PIP form, that is personal independence payment. It's more like if it's more limiting to your life. And if you go, like, what you have to do is you have to fill out the form as if on your worst day, if you've got a fluctuating condition like I do. So I feel really bad because I'm saying, you know, I can't cook, I can't chop things, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't wash my hair. I haven't washed my hair for about a week now, but that's not through choice, you know, that's just I can't. So you have to go by your worst. And I just feel quite guilty doing that, and I've been putting it off for so long. But now I'm thinking, well, if it helps me, you know, do things like just, I wouldn't feel so guilty about getting a taxi home or something, you know, or to the shop or whatever if I was really needing to get there and couldn't drive. Or getting my acupuncture, things like that. So I think I will definitely do the PIP form, and I also need to get my blue badge sorted because I haven't done that yet. And I hate to say it, but I do have a disability, and whether you want to call that being disabled or not, even if I'm walking around without a stick, even when I'm on a horse, you know, that's pretty much all I'll be doing that day, and I'll be suffering for it after. Have to take much more painkillers and all, you know, it's like very careful management. And then I'll have days and prolonged times where I can't do anything. So yeah, I'm not embarrassed to say that I have a disability. I don't think. I know I shouldn't be, so I'm like, I have to kind of, you know, you just have to reassure yourself, which is silly, but yeah. And this is obviously the spider window. But even when I can't get out to a garden, I'll just sit here and be with the spiders. Look out to the garden. Quite nice because you actually get deer coming into the back as well, like along the river. And I haven't yet seen an otter in the river, but I think if I sit here long enough, I'll see one. But it is amazing, like you kind of, when you've got more time on your hands, like people probably wonder what on earth I do with all my time. And I just don't do a lot really. And I don't get bored, it's almost like that kind of state of fog, like, that you get is just kind of, it just takes over. And I always talk about it kind of protecting me, like from getting bored or getting anxious or stressed. It just kind of makes you a bit stupid, which sounds silly, but it kind of does protect you. So anyway, right, I'm going to get a cup of tea, I think. It's just, it's a scary disease. It can come across, it can be an invisible illness. Sometimes it's quite visible when, you know, we're having bad days.
So I was bitten in 2010 when I was 22. And I just wasn't right. And I was getting horrible migraines, heart palpitations, like joint pain, just very unpleasant, uncomfortable symptoms. I went back to the doctor, and it was my mum that had said, who's a nurse, said, you have to get this doctor to test you for Lyme. So pretty much demanded that the GP test me for Lyme disease, and she was adamant, absolutely adamant, that it wasn't Lyme disease. And then 2 weeks later she called me up. Like, I'm really, really sorry, but it's positive and we need to get you on antibiotics. But that was 7 months later, so 7 months after I'd been bitten and had the rash. At that point, it obviously had gone through my whole body and my system. And they gave me 2 weeks of antibiotics. So, yeah, I was pretty upset at the time, but I didn't understand the sort of what would happen to me in the future, and I thought I would get better. And I haven't.
They were looking for someone to come and help share with like the well, both ponies, but mostly Bonnie. And I'd looked at other people who were looking for a sharer, but they were just the best fit, and I just fell in love with Bonnie and Rosie just instantly.
You want your scratch too, darling. You're not getting your scratch, are you? You don't do that because you're like, I just went out. Let's get you out, Bon, because you're manky. You need to brush you.
Like, she's so gentle on the ground and things, but she's not. She can have a little bit of fire to her, which I wouldn't say she's a novice ride, but she is just so beautiful and amazing, and I love her. Yeah, so they were looking for someone, and I was looking for someone, and it was like, it was just a good fit, a perfect match, really. It's been hard work, and there's been days when I've been really struggling, but you know, I can say to them I won't be able to make it that day, and I come up a different day, or I maybe come up and just feed her and pat her, and then other days Murray will come up and help, which is really nice, you know, and we can share being outside and doing the things we love.
Yeah.
You can get ones that are like double, so have like 2 rings coming off them. They're a bit harsher. But apart from that bit there, I mean that's as hard as
That's
you
it,
get
getting it
really
ready.
to control. And you
That's
can't
what
really
it'll do, is it'll
control
then,
just by pulling back.
it's waiting for
So you
somebody or
have to, like,
something to walk past, and then it
your
jumps.
body up,
That's
so
how you pick them
you
up.
have to open
It just sits on the end of the grass stem, and then it goes for you.
But going at speed's a little bit dangerous because she might slip or stumble. But you just don't know, Bonnie, do you?
Yeah, it's definitely a tick.
Is it?
There is a blackbird. sits on yon tree.
it is mindfulness, whatever you want to dress it up as. That kind of doing something and then getting to the point that you're actually just enjoying being in the moment.
It is blind,
And I think growing up in Ruth's always been able to do that. I've had to learn to do it, but I think for her, it's getting back to that.
is my true love. Take me.
I mean, you see her today on the horse, and how chatty she is, and about how she's going to tell you about the horse and about the nature around her and all the things she loves. Doctors and drugs and everything else, they can numb the pain, but that just actually takes it away, which is quite a big change.
Like, we were talking about how therapeutic losses are, and I do find that, like, I've been the happiest I've been in a long time. Like, not just happy, like relationship happy or whatever, but just, you know, that sort of soul happiness. Yeah, contentment. And I think it's down to her. Totally. You're gonna get emotional. We were kind of in the middle of going through the diagnosis of Lyme and positive blood result I had, and they didn't do anything about it. We were going to try and, you know, look in it more deeply, but obviously that got put on hold because when I was riding, I was jumping, and I'd just got back to jumping. Not crazy stuff, it was just with friends, and I was jumping a beautiful big horse, and she just kicks her back end up a little bit, and I was unbalanced, and I had to do an emergency dismount, which you bring your legs over and land on the ground, and I was holding onto the reins, landed 2 feet hard on the ground, and yeah, I just my left leg just completely buckled, and I fell on the ground, and I just knew at that point, I was like, something's not right. I tried to get up, I was like, no. And I kept saying at the time, I think it's broken. I think I've broken my leg or my hip. They came back with the x-rays, and they were all like, and I was like, is it bad? Is it broken? And they were like, yeah, it's, it's bad. So anyway, that was that. Broken hip. That's the hip replacement there. So they just essentially cut away that bit. I would have had to get a replacement at some point anyway. So there wasn't much point, I thought, getting pins and recovering and all that, like, horribleness, to then have to go through it a couple of years later to get a replacement anyway. So we just went and got the best surgeon possible, you know, to do. I was so lucky that he was able to do it. And in a way, like, we were talking about it, and it's almost like a silver lining, like, it happened for a reason, sort of thing. And it didn't put me off, it didn't scare me from riding. Right, little one. And then she has to try and eat Bella's bowl as well. I'm hoping she'll grow into these ears. This is absolutely, like, chronic Lyme disease or post-treatment Lyme disease, whatever you want to call it, I think it's kind of the same thing. There might be two different things. There might be an autoimmune response and people sort of don't have it anymore, and people might have infection, continued infection, but we don't know which one's which. We have to look above, and we have to go much higher up, look at the guidelines, look at, you know, like Public Health England, and obviously in Scotland we've got our own sort of governing body, but we follow the NICE guidelines, which is the UK guidelines. We don't have to. We can branch off, but we don't tend to. Some people don't recover, but that was like me. So what was I, 8 months or something after getting Lyme, to then getting treatment, which obviously was not enough. And even now, if it was right now, I would be given so much more antibiotics, and it would be intravenous antibiotics probably, because I had a lot of the brain swelling, you know, and also the arthritis symptoms. So if I was diagnosed now, I might actually recover, because I would get better treatment. Or I still don't think the treatment is as good as it can be, but I think it's better than it was 10 years ago.
What a voice, what a voice, what a voice I hear. It's like the voice of my Valley dear. But if I had wings like that swallow high, I would clasp in the arms of my belly boy. When my